Have you noticed how intermittent fasting suddenly became the smart way to eat? Celebrities are doing it. Influencers swear by it. Even doctors casually say, just skip breakfast. But here's the real question. Is intermittent fasting actually effective for South Asians? Or is it a Western trend being applied to a completely different metabolic and cultural context? Hi everyone, I'm Done, and this is Better You. Today, we're not just talking about skipping meals. We're talking about biology, culture, hormones, muscle, and whether intermittent fasting is helping or quietly backfiring in South Asian households. Because here's the truth, intermittent fasting can work, but it can also create problems, and the difference lies in how you apply it. Let's break it down properly. Here's something that might surprise you. Intermittent fasting is actually not a diet. It's simply an eating window. When someone says they're doing 16-8, it means 16 hours fasting, 8 hours eating. That's it. There is no metabolic spell that suddenly switches on just because you skip breakfast. Fat loss still comes down to one thing, a calorie deficit over time. So why do so many people lose weight on intermittent fasting? Because reducing eating hours often reduces overall calories without consciously dieting. But this is where South Asians need to pause. Eating patterns in South Asia, cultural habits, and meal compositions are very different from the Western diets. Many fasting studies are based on those diets, and that matters. Imagine this, you fast all morning, you skip lunch, you drink water and maybe black coffee. By evening, you're extremely hungry. Now picture a typical South Asian dinner. Rice, roti, curry, dal, some fried sides, maybe dessert. You sit down after 16 hours of fasting. What happens physiologically? Blood sugar has been low, ghrelin, your hunger hormone, is elevated, and your appetite control is weaker. So you eat faster, portions get larger, protein intake often gets overshadowed by carbohydrates. And suddenly, you've consumed most of your daily calories in one sitting. Technically, you fasted. Practically, you compressed overeating into a shorter window. And that's not fat loss. That's delayed calorie accumulation. Now let's go deeper into something even more important. Here's what rarely gets discussed. Fasting can quietly reduce protein opportunities. If you remove breakfast or lunch, you remove eggs, paneer, yogurt, lentils, and protein shakes. And if your remaining meals are carb dominant, which is common in South Asian diets, total daily protein may fall below optimal levels. Low protein plus long fasting windows can lead to reduced muscle protein synthesis, slower recovery, increased cravings, and over time, loss of lean muscle mass. And muscle matters deeply. Muscle improves insulin sensitivity, it improves metabolic flexibility, and muscle burns calories at rest. Lose muscle and long-term fat loss becomes harder. Now, this doesn't mean fasting always causes muscle loss, but it means fasting must be structured properly, especially in populations where protein intake is already modest. Now, let's address insulin, because that's often misunderstood. You've probably heard this before. Fasting lowers insulin and puts you into fat-burning mode. Yes, insulin drops when you don't eat. That's normal physiology. But here's what matters more. Total 24-hour energy balance determines fat loss, not temporary insulin drop during fasting hours. If you overeat during your eating window, overall energy balance can still exceed your needs. And insulin exposure over the full day reflects total intake. So the real question isn't, did you fast? It's, did your total intake align with your goals? And more importantly, did you preserve muscle while doing it? Because muscle improves insulin sensitivity more than robustly skipping breakfast ever will. Now let's talk about something more advanced, but really important. There's a concept that many people don't know. Metabolic flexibility is your body's ability to switch between burning carbohydrates and burning fat efficiently. Intermittent fasting can improve metabolic flexibility in some individuals, especially those who constantly snack or overconsume refined carbohydrates. But resistance training and muscle mass improve metabolic flexibility even more powerfully. And in South Asian populations where insulin resistance risk is already higher, muscle preservation becomes even more important. So fasting alone is not the magic solution. Muscle is part of the equation. Now let's talk about who fasting actually works best for. Intermittent fasting tends to work well for people who snack constantly, eat late at night, struggle with structure, or feel overwhelmed by calorie tracking. For them, fasting creates boundaries. It simplifies decisions, it reduces mindless eating. Instead of eating 6 to 7 times per day, they eat 2 to 3 intentional meals. That structure can improve mental clarity, as well as consistency. But if you already eat structured meals, you don't snack much, and you maintain portion awareness, fasting may not offer a additional benefits for you. Now let's discuss something that's especially important for women. This topic is rarely discussed. Aggressive fasting does not affect everyone the same way. For some individuals, particularly women under stress, long fasting windows combined with low calorie intake, high cortisol, poor sleep, these can increase physiological stress load. And chronically elevated cortisol, especially alongside sleep deprivation, may contribute to increased abdominal fat retention, as well as appetite disruption. This doesn't mean women shouldn't fast. It means fasting should not be extreme. Consistency beats intensity. Let's briefly touch on something culturally relevant. Some people say, we already fast during Ramadan, so intermittent fasting is easy. But there's an important difference. Ramadan is time-bound. It's structured and it's spiritually anchored. When done properly, meals include protein at suhoor and balance at iftar. Trained fasting, on the other hand, is often open-ended, it's poorly planned, and it's focused purely on weight loss. Intent and structure matter. Let's have a look at the physiques of Hrithik, Roshan, and Deepika. What stands out with them is not extreme fasting, it's structure. Based on trainer interviews and public disclosures, their routines emphasize consistent protein intake, structured meal timing, resistance training, and recovery. They don't rely on skipping meals randomly. They fuel performance. Even actors like Ranveer Singh and Priyanka Chopra speak about disciplined, balanced eating rather than aggressive restriction.
Because recovery enhances the performance. Yeah. He'll have about 6 to 7 meals a day.
Usually I eat like eggs, like omelette, toast, avocado toast.
Deepika Padukone gets that beautiful figure and that beautiful smile on her face only because her stomach is forever nourished. Everything reflects that she's a nurtured, nourished person.
So what's the takeaway? Structure beats trends. Now let's close this properly. Intermittent fasting is a tool. It is not superior, it is not magical, and it's not required. You can lose fat by eating 3 meals, eating 4 meals, or eating within a time window. What truly matters is total intake, adequate protein, strength training, sleep, and stress management. Fasting can support these things, or it can quietly disrupt them. It depends on how you apply it within your culture, your household, and your biology. Before jumping onto another trend, pause and ask, is this aligned with my long-term health? If this episode gave you clarity, like this video, subscribe to South Era Network, and comment below. Have you tried intermittent fasting? Did it work for you? Because fitness isn't about copying trends. It's about building a smarter, stronger, more informed, better you. Until next time, bye-bye.